Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. This one is going to be a lot of fun, guys. So buckle up. I am so excited to have you in here, Liam, to come and talk to us. But Liam, I have a custom that I do here at Threads of Enlightenment that I'd like to do for you as well. The custom is I like to welcome my guests, take my time right here because I know you're coming with a couple of things that is very expensive in my eyes. One, your time. Time is one of the most precious commodity given to mankind while we're here on this planet. How we use it will say much about who we are. The other is your journey. The journey, it housed who you were, made you who you are today, and you are here to share with us some of your challenges, some of those wisdoms that you incorporated to help you to become who you are today. And so I want to thank you for coming and sharing and spending both with us here at Threads of Enlightenment. Thank you so much for coming.
Of course, man. Thanks for having
It
me.
is a pleasure, man. Talk to the folks. Tell them, because I've been telling them for a couple of years now, that we are all creators and we create by how we receive our thoughts, how we collect it, what thoughts we choose, and how we bring it out to cause us to live certain way, believe certain way. And that product that comes out of it, I said, that's what we created. So talk to the stuff, to the folks about the stuff that you have today in your life that you're a part of.
Yeah, I think a big part of what I'm doing right now is bridging the gap between two groups of people that previously were not thought to have interacted
Mhm.
together and were thought of as very different. So, in my day job, I work with an esports organization, a group of people that exist in competitive gaming to better bring together gamers and also people in the health and wellness category to better again, a big focus of what I'm doing is just bringing people together, and I feel that these two groups of people, they interact in the same social circles. They're watching a lot of the same TV. They're playing the same games. They're having a lot of fun with each other. But what can they learn from each other? And I'm a big follower of just fitness as a path to enlightenment,
Mhm.
right? Fitness is a way to learn different trials and tribulations in your life, and you can learn a lot of really good lessons from it that can be applied in anywhere. You learn it in here, you can take it out there. That's kind of my mentality when going into health and wellness, and I want to bring that same passion that I have for gaming and for health and bring it together to share with people. So I think that that's more of a unique approach that I have while being someone that works in the gaming field overall.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in some of your connections in the sense of the health and how you morph that in because I am from the
Mhm.
healthcare piece. So, how our custom here, Liam, is to go back into our childhood because usually that's where we are started to, our family began to form us into developing our belief system, if you will, and it is
Mhm.
then able to guide us through our lives and so forth. So, talk to us, introduce us to your family. What was that unit like, and how was it in your mind growing up in that type of family?
I think that my family background is a lot different than a lot of people in that I have a really really close and good relationship with my family. I think that in modern society right now, and if you look at social media, it's very popular for people to overall discredit their upbringing in some way. I feel that I had a really good childhood, a really good upbringing. My parents had me when they were a little bit younger, uh, and from very early on we were close. I listened to them because they were young, and I even from when I was very little, I could see that they were also figuring things
Yeah,
out. So there was a lot of commonality between us already, and I still saw them as authority figures, and I knew that they had my best interests in mind, and I knew that there was love always. So I was very
yeah,
secure in my upbringing, and I was also able to learn different values early on that people might not learn until later on. That the world is not like outside of those doors, like the doors to the like the family
yeah,
home,
yeah.
right? The outside of those doors, it's really not a safe
Yeah.
place. And my parents were able to um, showcase that to me very early on, like whether we were out and about or we went to different places. They were able to pinpoint, like, look, a lot of people have different struggles, and even more people will have struggles but they won't show it to you. Someone may be starving but
Yeah.
they won't say
Yeah.
anything. They might be going through crazy things at home or in their lives in general, but they won't say anything, right? So it was there was a lot of security and love in my formative years, so to speak.
Liam, how old were you when you started feeling this? Because that's pretty insightful for a young individual to start to observe in their life, to see it that your parents were young and you had this understanding at a young age, it seems. And that is very insightful for an individual at a young age to have.
I think it was around when I was 7 or 8,
Wow.
around that early
Yeah.
time, because we had moved to a new school
Hmm.
district, and when I would see other kids' parents pick them up from school or interact, I saw how old they were, and um, that was just like, I was like, oh, interesting. Like, I was like, I didn't really get it until, like, my dad was like, all right, buddy, we're gonna get going, and then I was just like, huh, like, and he was able to like pick me
Yeah.
up and do all these things with me that someone who is not at that young stage in their life, or they didn't develop the muscle in their body or
Yeah.
something like that, they wouldn't be able to do that. So it was, though, that kind of planted the seeds for practicing um, how grateful I
Yeah.
was, you know, for what I had at that point in
That
time.
is awesome.
Um,
That is
yeah,
great, man.
yeah. So probably around like 7 or 8, I really realized, I was just like, they're just like me. They're figuring stuff out, and that let's
Let's
go on this
go.
journey, as a
Yeah.
family.
Yeah, that's great, man. So
Yeah.
here you are. You have this understanding at a young age, and you're now also within the exterior as far as the school system also. And as you stated
Mm.
earlier, that from your relationship with your parents, you kind of have that exchange where outside is not a safe place. How did you manage the outside, Liam, when you got outside and away from your parents? How did you manage that play, that not safe space?
I think I practiced evolving rationality. And your rationality as a person evolves. The reason I call it evolving rationality is because as you pick up certain lessons in life, that will change and form. Don't cross the
Yeah.
street without looking both ways is one of the first things to really add into your evolving rationality, right? And whether it's staying close to a group of people which I know are safe, or not engaging in unnecessary risks, such as if you're on like I don't know, let's grab a random example. If you're like with your parents in like an unfamiliar place, you don't just sprint
Yeah.
away, right? Then that's something that I learned early on, and that's really how I practiced being in the unfamiliar
Hmm.
territories of life, right? As someone who was young, whether I was with the family unit, or I wasn't, right?
Yeah.
So that's really how I would navigate this space, and my parents would discuss candidly with me things that were going on in their lives and things that they
Yeah.
saw, so I would take into account their experiences with different things, and well, oh, my dad said not to do this, and I'm just gonna hang back and observe a little bit before I go and make any like rash decisions or something, so
And so
that's usually how I would navigate that.
how did you handle with that knowledge and that relationship with your parents? How did you handle, quote unquote, the peer pressure of the youngins as they coming? And I remember telling
Yeah.
my kids that is simply two belief systems. When one of them
Mhm.
comes to you and say, and they're trying to put pressure on you, that is two belief system. What is your belief in that situation? And you pick and choose your belief regardless of what goes on. So how did you handle that when you're coming up again with that knowledge? Because I find it very insightful for a young man to have that as he's navigating the beginnings of his journey, if you will.
I think a lot of how I would approach those situations comes back to
Yeah.
security and the love that I had in the home. And from that, I knew that if I did make mistakes, or if I uh, if I did things that would separate me from that friend group, I still had
Hmm.
family. I still had something to go back to. So in practicing evolving rationality, and understanding what's right and what's wrong, I would I would go with the gut feeling that I had based off of like experiences with my parents and the family unit. And when I say the family unit, it was just the three of us.
Wow.
I didn't really have any extended family. So I knew what we had was
Yeah.
special in comparison to like other people. Um, so in like dealing with peer pressure, I first off, I was very selective of the friend groups I had. The I'd rather have two real friends versus 50 acquaintances mentality
Yeah.
was very real to me, from an early age. So the people that I was hanging out with and engaging in friendships, they didn't engage in the most toxic of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Like the craziest thing we would do is like stay up a little bit later to play video
Yeah.
games, but which got me on my current path, right? So it and you know having those positive representations of morality and behavior around me in people that were my
Yeah.
age and also people that I looked up to was really how I defended against any like poor decision making in my formative years,
Yeah.
right? So to answer your question candidly, like with peer pressure, there was really never that much peer pressure. Like when I was younger, like when I got to high school, um, I saw people like vaping with like nicotine and like smoking cigarettes, but that just is something that didn't interest me because you go in from like the evolving rationality thinking it's like this is a can pose a major health risk to me
Yeah.
later on, so it's just like, and it's also just the people that were engaging in those kinds of activities were not people that I really wanted to associate with, uh, again candidly,
Yeah.
right? So that that's really how I kind of navigated the question of peer pressure, which everybody has to
Yeah.
face at some point or
But
another.
that's powerful stuff, though, that your observation skills as a young man, is very visible from listening to your story, and the wisdom of the type of friends is also notable
Hmm.
in our conversation, because that is a vital piece in that can steer a young person, especially those that are in high school, start taking you and drifting you off into spaces that eventually that is not a good place to be. Um,
Yeah.
I want you to stop right here for a minute, because this is important. Some of the people that listen to us, and I see the stats and stuff like that, Liam, are young folks. And so talk to them about uh, that mindset, to start developing that mindset and the importance of that mindset as a young person, that even goes into your adulthood. But once you start developing as a young person, yeah, you can become a force to reckon with later on in your life.
Yeah. I think that in the formative years, I think you have to understand a few things. Security in the self, in the self is
Yeah,
one, and unrelenting positivity is another tenet that I think a lot of the younger listeners should practice. Not only just understand, but also practice. Right? Because it's the extension of unrelenting positivity that is going to lead you down the never giving up, or okay, this is not a failure. It's his character building, or this is not a failure. This is just one thing that didn't
mm-hmm.
work. Right? And I think if you approach a lot of the struggles that you have with those two mindsets, I think that first off, you'll be able to focus on the things that you can change rather than stressing over the things that you can't change. And it will also lead you down a path of creative problem solving, of constantly looking for the
Yeah,
positives, and of consistently working to better the self in the pursuit of the optimization of you and your own heart, mind, and soul,
yeah,
right? And I think if you take into account those two factors, the security and the love, and then the unrelenting positivity, there's nothing can hold you back. You are your own limitations, and once you understand that you will just have to consistently believe in yourself, that is that I think that is really important for people that are in their formative years or a little bit younger to understand. And and perhaps I'm talking in theory right now, but if you go out into practice, right? Let's look at grades, let's look at your starter job, let's look at going into the gym for the first time as like a younger person.
Hmm.
I constantly see like younger high
Yeah.
schoolers going to the gym for the first time. And if you go into something like that where, depending on where you're going, there's people who are larger than life
Yeah.
physically,
Yeah.
right? There's a larger than life. But if you understand that, look, they started off right where you
Hmm.
are. Perhaps they had a different background. Maybe they played football or something, and they had parents that were putting them in football camps and everything like that. Everybody still had a first
Yeah.
day, and if you believe in yourself versus you're someone who just sees the end result and accepts that they will never achieve that end result, those are two different pathways you could approach. And I believe that if you practice the unrelenting positivity and belief in the self, you'll go down the first. You'll go down the, okay, this is the first day of my journey,
Yeah.
right? And in school, we constantly stress young people with GPAs and academic performance. And if you want to look at that and look at some of those metrics, it's like, okay, well, you might have a knack for a certain subject. I always liked history, and I was okay with math, but I would still study and really work hard to understand the material surrounding both subjects, because I understood that I still had to
Yeah.
perform, and the only way I'd be able to perform is if I didn't give up. So I think those kinds of lessons, unrelenting positivity and belief in the self, and the security of those around you, and the love for those around you, and for those of you who don't have perhaps the best upbringing, or the best family around you, you know, don't go looking for a community, or a community of like-minded individuals that you feel may reflect the strife that you're experiencing, right? Too many times do we see people who come from like poor homes gravitate towards a friend group, thinking, looking at the outer
Yeah.
lying, oh, happiness and stuff like that, but then they get led down the path of poor decision
Yeah.
making. you know you still, again, evolving rationality with a lot of
Yeah.
this. So that was my verbose way of answering your question
Yeah.
for the younger
I think
audience.
it's great.
Just take that sound bite, kind of.
I think it's great because if yeah, they listen and really hear what you're talking about, because there's a difference between listening and hearing. If they hear what you're talking about, their life would be totally different. So as you're moving through, this
Yeah.
young man, he has started his gaming skills and he's learning. What was my first video? It was way back, Liam. I think it was Wolfen or something like that. This was like one of the first um, stuff that ever came out, and it was on DOS at the back in the day. So this is way before you.
Hmm.
And Wolfen was the name of it, and it was really great. And then I graduated to all the others, but yeah, that's where I had my start. So you are now moving through life, and you're heading towards college. Now,
Hmm.
what made you pick that particular field as you're heading into your college? What was it that gravitated you towards your choice of study?
Yeah. I will tell you first off that my college years were times for character development. I will tell you that. I failed a lot more times than I care to admit in my journey to my current career.
Hmm.
Right? I went into college thinking that I was going in with this major. I had international business and
Yeah.
Spanish. Those were the two fields of study that I was involved in. So I was in the business department, and what I didn't realize is that if you're going to go into university and you're going to pair a global studies in from the business school, you have to pair that with something.
Mhm.
So I would have had to have been a dual major, right, as opposed to just having a major in global studies and then a minor in Spanish. So I ended up changing my major halfway through to marketing and digital media, thinking that I was going to be one of those people that made videos for a
Yeah.
living, right? And I was going around the city. I'm located in Pittsburgh. I went to the University of
Mhm.
Pittsburgh, and I was going around and doing little gigs for cafes or school like school district representatives who were trying to get the community to vote for them to represent the
Yeah.
kids, right? Those kinds of things. And in my pursuit of trying to keep the lights on, and something that's not a gig, that's consistent pay, I ended up finding like the tech field, and I was an intern for a third party tech company at university for about 2 years. And from that, I was able to learn a lot. I was really able to practice a lot of really good professional communication. Like, it's one thing being able to be with like your friends and your groups, you're able to talk about like, oh, I saw this funny
Yeah.
video or I saw this funny meme. But like going into like meetings or stuff like that, you want to be able to represent yourself on the professional stage, right? So I was in that internship for a little bit, and then the COVID-19 pandemic happened, and my entire university was shifted over to mainly virtual. uh, that company I was working for was doing a big push for esports
Mhm.
products, right? And I started just getting connected with people and studying. And this was so I've been a gamer since I was
Yeah.
8. I again, we talk about family. I gamed with my parents before I gamed with any of my friends. I played video games with my
Yeah.
dad. Like it was, and that's like where I learned balance and like I learned a
Yeah.
lot from that. But I had always heard about esports. I had always heard about their professional level of gaming, and I never wrote it off. I was never one of those people that's like, "Oh, really? Like you're gonna make a living off of that?" Like, because I'm part of the generation that saw these virtual and mainly content creator titans just
Yeah.
rise up as big bastions of new age
Mhm.
celebrities, right? And I saw it, and I could see after studying it and conversing with faculty and staff, professors, people in campus recreation, athletics, like this was something I wanted to get involved
Yeah.
with. And I found that out in my senior year of high school. So imagine finding out your career choice right before you're going to graduate,
Nice.
not even having a job lined up or anything like that, but just knowing that I wanted to do
Mhm.
this. But I so this was, I believe, January or February. I believe this was January or February, and I graduated in April.
Wow.
So yeah, so I found out that this is what I wanted to do, and I found out that there was a professional organization, a professional esports
Yeah.
team located in Pittsburgh, and I didn't even look if they were hiring. I didn't. I didn't. I was just like, okay, I knew this is the company I want to work for. I like what they're doing. They're located locally. I will do anything.
Yeah.
And it was in that, and I believe like in the pursuit of that is when I unlocked a lot of other sort of character traits about
Yeah.
myself, like being pleasantly persistent and not giving up on. It was another example of not giving up on something that you're passionate about just because there's a lot of outside factors that you should pay attention to, but you don't want to let that stop you, right? I did what nobody should do, and I put all my eggs into one basket. I was like, this is the one thing that I believe in. I'm going to put all my energy towards this, right? I collected together all my materials. I took my resume that I rewrote 4 times. I took my cover letter that I rewrote 5 times. I took a white paper. Again, this was COVID. I got a bunch of University of Pittsburgh face
Yeah.
masks, put that into a packet, and I addressed it to the president and the CEO. And a week later, I was able to get a meeting.
Yeah.
And it's through those unorthodox levels of outreach, or those connecting with and focusing on the
Yeah.
people, that I was able to attain and pursue the next level of my overall development as a person, which is finding that which I am most passionate about, and kind of like what we were talking about, making a living off of
Yeah.
it and pursuing it in it to the fullest, right? So that was kind of that's like a rough outline of how transformative my college years were, because I went in with one idea, changed my career path so many different times, and then I ended up finding what I was truly passionate about in my senior year. Now, I'm not saying that that's for
Yeah.
everyone. There's some people that find their true path and their true passion when they're
Yeah.
40 or
Hmm.
60, right? And then they have to do a whole revamp of their life. I've seen startups and entrepreneurs taking over their house, and like the products and like the memorabilia are like invading their child's bedroom, and it's filled up the garage and the basement's full. I've seen that, and they're in like their mid 30s or they're in their 60s. So like it's never too late. And for some of your young listeners, take note of the things that you are passionate about
Yes.
and start to formulate that. I've seen, I'm very lucky. I believe that, and because I was able to find the industry and the career path in the grand scheme of things very early
Yeah.
on,
That,
right? And yeah,
that's powerful.
yeah.
You said so much in that piece that you just talked about. I always tell folks the reason why they're living a circular life, Liam, is because they haven't decided what to do. You had made a statement
Hmm.
about putting all your eggs in one basket. I believe that you can, just like how you did.
Hmm.
Let me explain.
Yeah.
When you're living this circular life, and I tell people the reason why you're living that circular life is that you're thinking about what you want to do, but you haven't decided yet. But once you
Right.
decide, something begins to happen within you. You will then begin to accumulate knowledge, information.
Mm.
You are going to study. You're going to do things that, because it is so real to you, that you want this regardless. And I believe when we are in that state, Liam, that state is a powerful state, because I believe what happens
Hmm.
is that we are energetic as well, and that you are now going to put the pieces together that is necessary in order for you to send out your energy to the recipients, who are the CEOs, the HR department, all of those things. And
Hmm.
your words on that page and the other incidental pieces that you put together is all a representation of you and your energy being delivered to
Mm.
those folks. And when they open that, I believe that energetic power jumps off of them. They're going to look at that and go, "Hey, this is different from all the others. I want to know who this
Mm.
person is," because I was in that state as a manager and hiring folks, and I can tell from looking at the interviews and the resumes and the people that would put in something different that will grab my attention. I want to have a conversation with them because I want to find out where did that come from. And
Hmm.
it always came from a place of, I want that position more than anything else. And I believe that's what you did. And I told those folks, stop being circular. Make your decision and put your wisdom, your study, your energy into accumulating data, if you will, and
Hmm.
then the next step is to make that step. And a lot of people, sometimes, Liam, the other aspect that they have to have is that surety within themselves, because that's the only way
Yeah.
you'll go beyond the fearfulness. You have to know who
Yeah.
you are and say, this is it, and go beyond that. And once you go beyond that, then you'll see the unfolding, if you will, of your dreams. It's That's the process, man. And those who are listening
Yeah.
to us, I'm telling you, a lot of people complicate it, Liam, but it's not that complicated. He said you have to be perpetually moving forward. Do not give up.
Hmm.
Keep that mentality, that focus. Yeah, because as I mentioned to you, it's an energetic shifting of one's perspective. And once you keep that perspective, you will not believe how many people will be gravitating towards you to help you, assist you to get to where you are. So here you are,
Mm.
you got this appointment, if you will, and I
with
with
destiny.
with destiny. You got it. So talk to me as you are now. You got it. All of this energetic work that you've done, the study, all of it, Leon, and you're going to this
Mm,
office or even a phone call or maybe Zoom because of the at the time.
yeah.
So talk to us about that particular thing right there because you've worked up to it. You've put in a lot of sweat and tears to it. How did you handle that conversation? And talk to us
Yeah.
also um, the internal stuff that was happening with you as you're in the midst of your conversation, if you will.
Well, I had found out that I was going to have the call on, I believe, like a week and a half before.
Hmm.
So I was, the entire week and a half before that was
Yeah,
research. I was looking into the esports space, what their current efforts were. I wanted to come up with a bunch of really cool topics of discussion and also ideas and suggestions for what I could bring to the table or where we could take the
yeah,
team. And the preparation was on par with an exam or something like that, and that's what I likened it to. I'm just going to
yeah,
study, and I understand that this is something that could that there a lot of really good can come from this, right? And as far as the other factors surrounding it, I wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything that could mess it up. So I skipped class that whole day. No, I'm just kidding. But I so I got a computer lab because I had become relatively mm, regular and casual with a lot of the faculty and staff around campus. So I knew where there was a lot of computer labs and study rooms and conference rooms that I could go to that nobody else could
yeah.
go to. Because again, this is COVID university, nobody's on campus. So I made sure that the entire computer lab was there for me. I wanted to make sure that they knew that I was again very I was a follower and I was a fan and I was passionate,
Yeah.
right? So this is a computer lab. So what I did is I took the two computer screens behind me and I downloaded the logo of the organization and I put them up on the two laptop
Nice.
screens so that when I got onto, they'd see me and then like the two insignias of the company, right? And so then from there, it was being truthful about my intentions. Like, yes, I do want to work for you guys. I'm passionate about this space, and then also showcasing who I was as a person and making me seem as a person, not an
Yeah.
applicant, right? And I mean, thank the universe or thank the current situation, but I was able to conversationally really vibe with the founder and the CEO because from his cadence, his intonation, his background, he really seemed like a reflection of people that have been in my life. I really feel like he was the amalgamation of a lot of different people that I have met in my
Yeah.
life. So I was able to kind of navigate the conversations and when you talk about somebody who's the old guard in an industry, the founder of the Knights, he is definitely in that. He's part of the old guard. He's been in this industry for 20 years, and he's been in this industry since its founding, right? So, hearing an intellectual titan, so to speak, discuss to an entry level
Yeah.
person like the ins and outs and things like that. It was so transformative, and that call lasted an hour and a half. I think it was only supposed to be like a 30-minute meeting, but I cleared my day
Yeah.
for it, and I was like, it was just so I was hanging on to his every word. And in that I was able to represent who I was as a person rather than who I was as an applicant. And from there, that was the beginning of I thought we were just gonna like talk.
Yeah.
That ended up being the first
Yeah.
interview. So then there was another round of two more
Yeah.
interviews in between that, right?
Hmm.
And that was again what I focused on going in, and this is what I want everybody to realize. I focused on everything that I could
Yeah.
control, as opposed to stressing over things that I couldn't control. I ended up stressing about the things that I couldn't control later
Yeah.
on, and it killed me. It tore apart my health. It tore apart like everything around me. Like, so in focusing on the things that I could control, that put me down the right path in this whole process in going after my passion.
Yeah.
And that's what I think kept me sane, and that's what really helped to bring the outcome to such a positive outcome. I also had people around me. I had people who were supporting me, and I didn't tell my parents that I had only applied to one job.
Yeah.
That's one thing I wouldn't recommend other people do. But anyway, they're
Yeah,
happy. They're
yeah.
just, they found I ended up starting in this role the week of my graduation. I walked at my graduation on a Thursday, but I started on that Monday.
Wow.
Yeah, so no, it was awesome. It
Yeah,
was
that's
awesome.
an awesome story, man. I tell people, find your passion and be passionate about it. That formula is one of
Hmm.
the most powerful things. I love your story because it reminded me of one of mine. I remember,
Yeah.
and we're going to get to the health piece as well. I'm going to use this to kind of walk into that aspect of the healthcare piece within your industry. Um,
Hmm.
my company, I was working in one of the first HMOs in the state of Florida, Medicaid HMOs recruiting Medicaid recipients onto Medicaid HMOs. And the company that I was working with, they decided to pull out. And this other company bought
Hmm.
them. And so I
Hmm.
sent my resume to the company that bought them, and they were hiring for contract negotiators. I had never done this in my life,
Oh.
and
Oh.
but I began to study just like you did, Liam. I studied the company.
Hmm.
I started doing some research about who these guys were, what were their vision.
Hmm.
It was a brand new company. I kind of got some information about their vision, and they were doing an
Yeah.
interview in the hotel. And I remember walking into the
Hmm.
hotel and sitting down with these two gentlemen, and I did the interview, but I did not know that they were both of them was the CEO and the CFO of the company. And I'm sitting there in front of
Oh
them,
wow.
and I am telling them, Liam, why they need to hire me in order for their company to be a success and for them
That's
to
great.
get they needed to get the network developed first, the network meaning all the physicians in place before they can go get
Hmm.
their
Hmm.
license to become an HMO in the state of Florida. And so I looked at these two
Yeah.
gentlemen and I said, you need me really badly because without me you cannot make it in this in this area because I know all the physicians and I know how to get you these contracts. Sure enough, these guys took a chance on me and they told me they thought I was absolutely off the chain. And
Oh man.
then they said because of my conversation, they said they could not get me out of their mind and not hire me. And I'm on my way to the to Tampa for my final interview and so forth. And they were going to do some things, and they called me up. I'm driving, and they said, "We need a favor from
Hmm.
you. We need one more physician to in order for us to get our license." And we need it
Hmm.
yesterday. I'm driving in my car. I made a phone call to a physician that I knew, and I said, I need you to send your fax your credentials to this physician, these guys, and whatever. He did it without any asking. They called me up, and they hired me with a little more than what they had spoken to me about in the hotel because I told them they cannot do it without me. And I said this to say this:
Wow.
you had a similar situation where you stand out. You put you took the two screens and you created a
Hmm.
vision, and that implanted that's communication. All of that stuff is communication when you're dealing with others. And so I want to challenge you guys. You hear these two stories. They're very similar. Their threads are very similar. If you can pick it up,
Hmm.
you will uh, extract out of it the wisdom, the knowledge, the information you need to take your life to another level. So here you are, Liam. You've gotten these guys. You're going to all the different interviews, you're slowly, as you said, I saw your questionnaire, you're leveling up from the fan to the executive, you're moving through. So when you got your first day and you showed up
Mm,
and they said, they put the stamp on you, they send you that acceptance letter that you are hired. Talk to me, man. What
mhm.
was that um, feeling for you as an individual making that uh, uh, thing come to pass?
Well, getting that acceptance email was like
Yeah.
insane. And I I didn't I only told my mom because I wanted to surprise my
Yeah.
dad because I knew that they were coming into town,
Hmm.
right? And I didn't even like tell anybody for a little bit. I just kind of sit back in my chair and I was just like, whoa. Like this is I was like, this is great. And then it I didn't realize until I got there on the first day that this was the start of something bigger than I had
Yeah.
anticipated, because this was the start of something, of not only a job but a career in an industry that I was passionate
Yeah.
about. And that led me through like all of the onboarding and stuff, like the onboarding and stuff like that. Starting out at the company was just like, it was a
Yeah.
blast because I was like,
Excited.
this is
Yeah.
it, like this is the start, this is awesome, yeah. And like it I was just I was like working from home, and I was part of a team that was really, like really understanding and very, I want to say very goal oriented.
Hmm.
And through that kind of philosophy, they were checking up on me. They were constantly there to help me if I had confusion, right? And they're still like that
Yeah.
today, right? And it was just amazing. I really, it's really hard for me to put into words how it felt accepting the next part of my
Yeah.
life.
That
Um,
is awesome.
so yeah, that's probably how I want to answer
Yeah,
that.
that is incredible because when you get that accomplishment, as you said, most of the times you're just sitting there. Um, it's here, and I always tell people
Hmm.
that's people always say the hardest part is getting it, and I would tell them no, the hard part is after you've gotten it, because the easy part is getting it. The hard part is after,
Hmm.
because after you've gotten it, now um, you've got to level up, as you said, and you have to get up and begin to now make it happen. Take this thing to a next level. Show them what you can do, what you are
Hmm.
capable of. As you begin to expand and gain and be a part of the team, Liam, talk to us as
Yeah.
some of the other things internally that you began to notice about yourself as you began to incorporate your energy with these others. What was happening to you past getting the position and all that stuff? What were the other little things that
Hmm.
were happening within yourself, man, as you are looking in this working in this field?
Yeah, I think that a big part was fi- um, sort of expanding upon the skills that I had already
Hmm.
learned, along with new skills such as professional writing or professional communication. These were things that I had developed, but these were things that now I was experiencing on like a greater field. Like the game has
Yeah.
changed, and that's something that I was really experiencing, right? Because I was not only representing myself, but I was representing a professional organization that was truly different than others in the space. And let me tell you why, right? And it was, I think, I was able to solidify a lot of skills that I had, but also learn a lot as well. Again, like we talked about the professional
Yeah.
writing and the communication, and overall how I was going to represent myself was going to be impacted by a couple of things. My acceptance of that, being pleasantly persistent with my
Hmm.
goals and some of the opportunities that we had, um, that was the best approach. So it's just practicing that consistently, whether like we're in the company or outwardly facing. And then on the flip side, um, how best can I represent myself? Okay, it's going to be studying
Yeah.
up, learning what we've done, learning what the company has done in the past. What cool projects have we done? Why researching more into esports and memorizing like statistics and numbers so that I can just have it top of mind when I'm going into calls, right? So it was a lot of in the role it was a lot of
Yeah.
research and it was a lot of learning, and that's why you're always a student. That kind of that
Yeah.
phrase, I was definitely putting that into practice in those like first couple of weeks at in my new career, right? And I still do that today. Like I'm still like constantly learning about like cool stuff that either we're going to be doing or new cool things in the esports and gaming field that are transformative and industry changing, right? So I'm constantly learning, but the the end of the academic style versus the committing real things to
Yeah.
memory and um, learning how to better practice a lot of practice theory was definitely something that I learned in my first couple of weeks. I feel.
Question to you, Liam. How did you now begin to, as a corporation, begin to synergize, if you will, health and wellness within that
Hmm.
industry, the esport? How did you guys begin to put them together to bring and actually probably you guys are about to start something new as far as another field,
Uh,
kind of.
yeah,
So how is that?
we are. Um, uh, well, first off, it's very
Yeah.
fulfilling because here's the thing. Okay. There's a lot of things that I'm about to spit out at you with stuff because this is something I'm passionate about,
Yeah.
right? I've been in tennis. I followed a bodybuilding style of training from the age of like 13 up until now. Um, bodybuilding and like when I was a kid, my parents and we would watch strong men and bodybuilding and like UFC. We wouldn't watch football and baseball and these other things, right? So I had a very different background as far as like overall fitness and what I followed. I get into esports and I get to our organization and they're like, okay, what kind of like brands and things like that do you think we could go over or we could pursue? I was like, well, I mean, the first one I'm thinking is like supplement companies and the whole gym culture and things that align with that. And they're like, why? And I was like, well, have you guys looked at the research? And they're like, no, what research? And I was like, okay, so this is a new discussion. When you look at the facts, they're when at the professional level of esports and professional level of gaming, they're constantly looking for things to upgrade their cognitive
Hmm.
performance. And another thing that they're looking at is stuff to increase their overall reaction
Yeah.
time, right? So one of the natural ways and one of the easiest ways for that is with the intervention of exercise, cardio, and
Hmm.
weights, and then also making sure that all of the other healthy habits are in place, such as sleep is all dialed in, the nutrition is all there. Those basic three
Yeah.
factors increase they increase overall performance in the game by not just like single digit and of percentiles,
Wow.
right? And it's very important that people realize that because not only are you increasing your performance in the game that you're competing in, but also on the flip side you're building these baseline good habits that you can take
Yeah.
anywhere,
Yeah.
that you can develop for life. You can take that to your kids, to your family, or you can have those habits in place to make sure that your career, you experience a good longevity in your professional career, then you're able to port those skills over to a corporate position with a tech
Yeah.
company
Yeah.
or with non-endemic brands because you carry such a valuable opinion and experience, right? And then or going over to the team management side, it's like, yeah, I had a professional career. I learned that this training schedule worked best for our team. I'm going to take this to other teams as well. Right. So that is the opportunity that exists for health and wellness in esports and why it is
Yeah.
vital. Here's the thing. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. There has been research that I look on my personal networks, in my LinkedIn and in my personal communication channels. I'm constantly finding the studies that have been
Yeah.
done by these larger entities and these larger research organizations and universities, and I'm trying to be the loudspeaker for this stuff because it is so important for people to realize this. So what I just
Yeah,
said, I said in that situation, I was just like, have you guys looked at this stuff? And they're like, no. And I was like, well, listen, I exist, like, I mean, I was like, well, look at me. I exist in this realm, and I'm passionate about both sides of this. So let me run with this. And it took a while because it was a lot of
yeah,
convincing of
of
these health and
course.
wellness brands, right? Because their branding or their messaging is targeted towards the gym rats
Yeah,
or bodybuilding fans, so they're going to be aligning with people's in those
yeah,
spaces. But they're not trying to go after the wider audience that exists, and the wider audience that exists is going to be these younger people who they game, but they also want to go to the gym. They want to emulate those skills and athleticism that they see in the games or in the media that they're
yeah,
consuming, right? Whether it's in TV shows, like with the anime that they're watching, like with the combat acumen in like Jujutsu Kaisen or Naruto, or the crazy physiques that they might see in Kengan Ashura or Baki, and these are all
yeah, yeah,
animes, right? Or if they want to emulate the skills that they see in Call of Duty based, like Call of Duty shooters, like they want to be able to sprint at that same ability. They want to have the physiques of these godlike characters in the game. They're going to go and realize that they have to go to the same place. They have to go to the
yeah,
gym. They have to go and engage in this product or in these services. And what's going to help them get there? These supplement companies, these grocery stores that allow them to purchase the healthier foods, sometimes even these apparel
yeah,
companies that want to help them look good and feel good in their journey, right? And in their quest to find themselves, you know. And then when looking at that, that's what I'm bring. That's one of the things not only that I brought to the Knights, but I'm bringing to
yeah.
esports. You know,
That's
I think that one thing that people don't realize yet is I'm trying to change. I'm trying to change all of this.
yeah. But let me
And
ask you a question
yeah.
though, Liam. The competitors of
Mhm.
esports, that's a good kind of crew, I guess, a good set of people that would understand the value of all of those things that you just talked about. A good night's sleep, the fact that you need to
Mhm.
be healthy and in shape, and all the other things. Because I've seen some of those competitions, and you would
Mhm.
need some sleep, and you would need all these things. So
Yeah.
they would need to understand, even those that are competing today would need to understand the value of what you are talking about as far as bringing in that
Mhm.
aspect into their overall competitiveness, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And already what we're seeing is different professional organizations across Europe and in the States and here in the States, they are enacting this. They're investing in
Yeah,
dietitians. They're investing in personal trainers for the team, right? And through that, they're able to again teach a
yep,
lifestyle that you can take
hmm,
anywhere. And from that, you know, you're gaining the skills necessary to be a better competitor, a better athlete, right? And I hate the term, but some people call them e-athletes. They're not e-athletes; they're just esports athletes. Just call it like that.
yeah,
But you know, that's what they yeah, so yeah, I completely agree. At the professional level, this is something that people are doing, but at the collegiate, high school, and grassroots level, this is
not
not
there.
something that is really being. It's not being
Yeah,
taught. It's not being preached. Like that's something that I'm looking to change,
yeah,
right? Because look, like with NASIF and NACE, right? So NASIF is the National Association of Scholastic
hmm,
Esports
yeah,
Federation, right? So that's going to be your middle school and your high school, and it's not just in the states; it's also in Canada and Mexico. And then NACE is the National Association for Collegiate
yeah.
Esports. So um, the NCAA didn't want anything to do with esports, which thank God. But thank God. Oh my God. Ah, but so with so from the middle school, high school, collegiate level, this is not something they're
Yeah,
teaching them. Now, look, the esports at those levels, it's really good to give that varsity
yeah,
experience, the community, the
Yeah.
friendships, those kinds of things, developing the skills of communication on the field that you can take, again, you can take anywhere. A lot of skills are to be learned in esports through this experience. But one thing that I want us to begin to teach them as well is all of the other factors off the field, like off of the
Yeah.
screen. You also need to dial those
Yes.
in, right? You have to make sure that those are good so that you can be a better competitor, right? And if you want to engage and be a part of this ecosystem, whether you want to be part of esports at the middle school and high school level, and then take it over to the collegiate level, and there's many universities and colleges giving good scholarships and really really big tickets to people who are able to compete at the collegiate
Yeah.
level. In order to be a better competitor, you got to make sure everything off the field is taken care of before you can even step on,
Yeah.
right? And and that's something that I'm looking to change. That is, I'm trying to change the whole game
Yeah.
here. So
I think
yeah.
what you're bringing to the game is a necessary aspect, and I think it'll change the game
Hmm.
because you will have kids that will, when they start to implement all of these other aspects off the field or off the gaming aspect of it. Oh yeah, they're going to be that much better and create some serious competition
Hmm.
in the future.
Yeah.
So here you are, you've been in this thing for a little while, Leo. There's a little kid somewhere that is out there, even a young adult, someone in college. What advice would you give to them as someone that, again, you've been in the mix for a little while, and the
Hmm.
mix is changing constantly. You're about to take it to another
Yeah.
level with the introduction of all of this information that we just talked about with the help piece. With the ground right now, what type of advice would you give to someone that is looking into coming in that direction, if you will? Some of the things that you
Hmm.
talked about from the onset, one of those things is you became passionate about it. They got to make sure that they have. That's probably one of the most important ingredients in your life, guys. Whenever you're going in wherever direction you're going to, make sure your
Yeah.
passion is there, because that's the stuff that will push you when you're tired and when you're
Hmm.
exhausted. That's the ingredients that is going to propel you. So, what
Yeah.
advice would you give, Liam, to someone that is thinking about it and but not sure? What is the
Hmm.
formula that you would present to them?
Yeah. I think at the baseline level, like if they're looking to get into esports specifically, or
Yeah, esports or even
okay.
your industry, I guess, which is a combination of, and since you're changing it, you're going to have the combination of esports. By the time they get there, you'll have the health and all the
Yeah.
piece in
Uh,
there.
I Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And what I tell people is at the grassroots level, if you want to start to develop some experience with it, first off, you want to understand several different games and also games that you can play with multiple people. And we'll get to
Mhm.
why in a second. Also, stay up to date on what's changing in the industry, what developers are moving, what acquisitions are happening, what teams, and that's relatively easy. You can also just like look it up, or you can go on Google News instead of Google Alerts. So make sure that you understand overall the industry landscape. I would also take inventory of your current skills and how and seek to grow that skill base, right? So there's a lot of those free certification programs, and ways for to pursue self-study. That's what I would do consistently, right? It doesn't stop just because you learned a couple of new things. No, you keep on studying it yourself, and you seek to grow your skill level, because when you and in the end, we'll get to this, when you are going after positions, you want to be able to not only showcase your skills but also have the accreditation to back
Yeah,
it up, right? So then, so you look at games that you can play with like multiplayer people, right? And next thing that you should do if you want to overall develop it is you should look at Eventbrite, Reddit, and different social platforms to get a better understanding of the different gamers that exist in your area, right? One thing that I would say is if you're in school, see if you can start different gaming clubs, and then if you can do that, you can start to host some events. What then you can do is you can start to, depending on the size of the event, you can start to look at events venues, you can start to look at event sponsorship, then you can start to do all this small time coordination at a young age,
Yeah.
right? And you can utilize platforms such as Eventbrite to publicize that, yes, I'm having an esports event or I'm having a gaming competition. Come down. We're going to be doing like, it's like $5 entry or $10 entry, right? Um, then on platforms like Reddit, you can geolocate people that live in like your area. You can find communities for the areas that you live in, and you can start to publicize on there. So then you've got marketing and advertising skills that you're developing and communication skills that you're developing,
Hmm.
right? So I would start to try to grow the overall group of people that you're gaming, whether it's in school or with smaller events like this. And then you take pictures, you make sure that you understand what you did, and you start to do it on a more consistent basis. So then by the time you get into the professional discussion, and look, esports organizations, they hire on a lot of the same traditional platforms like LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, those kinds of things. So when you go for those kinds of positions, whether you want to work for an esports team or gaming developer or in live events, those kinds of things, you have the skills necessary to do so because you were pursuing your passion and you were bringing people together, right? And you were hosting these gaming events. You were helping to um, grow the gaming following in your area, or you're a part of these gaming clubs. So then you sought to host different like gaming events there as well, right? So that's a lot, but what it boils down to is pursuing your passion in ways that not only you're bringing people together, but also you're growing your own skills. And one of the ways I believe in doing that and on the baseline level is just get people together and start hosting these events. And to do that, you utilize the different social media platforms, your community, that you follow that pathway. So that sorry, that's probably what I would tell people who are like trying to get into esports. But again, it's all about pursuing your passion,
Yeah.
man, and growing your skills in the
Yeah,
process.
it takes work. I tell people you got to put the effort in, and they've heard this stuff before, but the
Yes.
effort is uh, when you are in love with what you do, and we talked about that passion, that ingredient, you will be able to
Hmm.
work. I know we only get 24. You'll be able to work 42 hours a day, and you won't have enough time. You'd be so happy. Someone would look at you and say, "Aren't you tired?" And you look at them and say, "What are you talking about? I'm loving this
Hmm.
stuff." And so you
Yeah.
have to get that. I used to say to my kids, "Until you find that piece, you haven't found it. You're
Yeah.
still looking.
Yeah.
When you find that piece, that when you are so into doing your things and your friends are
Hmm.
looking at you going, man, aren't you tired? Aren't you just looking at them? And that question is such an amazement to you because you're looking at, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. You feel more
Yeah.
energetic while you're doing your passion. There's much energy there. There's much strength and wisdom and all the other things. Liam talked from the onset of this conversation about getting to know who you are. That is so important,
Hmm.
man, because it is, if you don't know who you are, someone will tell you who you are. So you need to find out
Hmm.
who you are because it is going to walk with you for the rest of your life. And as you grow more and
Yeah.
more about who you are, you people will come and as Liam talked about, as you expand yourself by stretching out,
Hmm.
inviting people, that's where that stuff comes in. You begin to become more and more confident in your ability. And those are some of the things that you will need to walk with you as you're moving in your life, number one, and within
Yeah.
this industry, because from my conversation with Liam, you can tell that it's highly competitive. And you have to know who
Yeah.
you are in order to be functioning within high competition platforms and people because they can make you feel pretty small if you don't understand what you are
Yeah.
all about. this man
No, I completely
has
agree.
been one of the. I told you I was excited about it because I wanted to see how
Yeah.
you the synergy with the health piece and the platform that you. I wanted to see all of that and get a handle as to your mindset within that arena. And it's been a powerful conversation, man. I just want to thank you for coming by because, as I said, it has been a good one, Liam.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for having me. I feel like we were able to dive into a lot of a lot of these podcasts will like dive into what you should do on like a theory level, but I feel like we were able to really showcase what practice looks
Mm-hmm.
like and how to really and really put like some of these your passions into practice and with like a lot of the stuff that we've talked about, because everybody here is like, oh, you should work hard, you should do
Yeah.
this, but nobody really knows like, okay, where do those first steps
Yeah.
begin? And I feel like we were able to really put that into practice here. So yeah, thanks for having me. This was
Oh
awesome.
man, thank you. I
Yeah, of
appreciate. Tell Phil say thank you for getting in touch with me so that I can have you
course.
on here, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.